Allie. Join me in playing with these macaroni style tubes in a nice form to get the macaroni bracelet. You can do them single strand, you can do them double strand, and I'll show you both closer in the video. So stay tuned, and if you need any materials, look at the description to shop with us online. So I've been having a ton of fun with these macaroni style tubular curved beads. And the tubular curved beads, when they're by themselves, just naturally, because they curve one way or another, they're going to give you this nice snaking back and forth design, just like this double strung bracelet here. So if I want to have a double version, but I want to have that nice opening, here's how I'm going to achieve that without it folding on itself. I'm starting with some of the tubes in the 2x10 in the antique brass, some 2mm gold rounds. The 2mm are really what help in this setting, and then increasing from the 4mm turquoise here to the 6mm magnesite. I have some 0.005 or some 0.015 bead-along beading cable, and I'm going to put it onto my trailer hitch here, going on so I have my thread doubled over, just like that, and I want it to stay tight. So I'm going to go in and put on one of my crimp tubes. Because I'm doing 2 threads through, I'm just going to do a nice flat crimp, and that's in the antique brass. From here, I'm going to first start with one of my gemstones. So I'm going to put my 6mm gemstone on here, and I'm putting both strands through that one gemstone. Now I'm going to separate out my strands. So here's where the 2mm bead really helps to keep it stabilized. If I put the beads on right away, one after the other, they tend to turn towards each other. So instead, I'm going to separate out my strands here to get that nice macaroni noodle look, and add one of my 2mm rounds here, and they can be a little bit tricky. They have a nice tiny little hole. You can also use 11/0 seed beads if you want to. You're just going to put them right on the edge, and then after you have that on the edge here, I need to find my hole, you're going to add one of your tubes. We're going to follow that then with another 2mm gold. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Now I use the gold just because I like pulling out that darker brown of the gemstone with my antique brass, but I still want that nice gold look. So I have one side done, and see how it wants to kind of turn towards that inside? We're going to force it to turn towards the outside by adding on that 2mm. So I'm going to do the same thing on this other side, and then show you how we have to push it down rather tight to get our next gemstone on. Once you have those beads on there, you can see how the 2mm is just big enough that the tubes don't hit against one another. You're just going to slide on your next 6mm bead, and then you're going to keep going to get that open and close design from our little macaroni curved tube beads. Once you're finished with the design here, in order to keep that nice open shape, you want to make sure to push all of your beads down towards the base, or down towards that crimp bead, evening out and making sure to give a little tension on the actual wire itself. And once again, we use the 2mm beads there, which can be changed out for 11/0 seed beads to help to keep that nice curvature design rather than it going every other way like a single strand would be. And we are going to add our crimp tube right after our 6/0 gemstone there. We're going to take our wire and go through the other side of our hitch clasp. And then with this thin wire, it's nice because you are able to go right back through that same crimp tube and just have one crimp tube on this side as well. Depending on the size of the beads that you're using, you may be able to go back through a gemstone bead or a round bead. If you're using just metal, this will look great in just all metal as well. And if you cannot, you can take the crimp tube right after, and the wire right after those crimp tubes. Grab just a needle nose plier with those 4 strands, and I'm just going to do a nice flat crimp. If you want to, you can also use crimp covers. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to go in with my wire cutters and just cut down that wire right after that bead to finish this fun macaroni bracelet. So it's fun to see how the different tubes will turn and lay as you're working with them for different sizes and different feels, gripping them together versus separate apart. Thanks so much for joining me and getting back to that childhood bliss of working with that macaroni style noodle. Remember, if you need any materials, go ahead and look below the video in the video description. If you're on a mobile or an iPad, you might want to look at the little down arrow right below the video on the right-hand side. That'll take you to our site. You can get everything you need there. Have fun, happy beading, and stay tuned for the next video.